FM News Talk 97.1. On demand audio. You're listening to Allman in the Morning. Common Sense Radio.
Good morning, you bunch of drunks.
What's up, gangsters?
7:34. Welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday to all of you. And I got to tell you, after just interviewing Steve Forbes and now we're on to Senator Rand Paul, it's got to feel good to people like Rand Paul and Stephen Forbes to see common sense finally seemingly taking hold. We don't want to celebrate too early, but the polling is showing that Americans, with their eyes open and their ears open, are finally starting to listen. And you look at the way Romney's fortunes have turned over the past 2 weeks or so, and you're starting to get it. And it's all because, ladies and gentlemen, of the ground that was actually plied by the likes of Rand Paul and Stephen Forbes. And really privileged to have Senator Rand Paul on the show with us this morning. How are you, my friend?
Good. Thanks for having me.
And I realize you don't want to be overconfident either. And I know you're going to be coming in town for one of our other Republican rock stars here, Ed Martin, who is running for Attorney General in Missouri. But before we get to that part of it, Senator Paul, I got to tell you, first of all, much appreciated your efforts over the past few years to really kind of keep hammering away at the keys to prosperity and growth in this country. And now it appears Americans, unfortunately it might be because of their experiences, are finally starting to get it.
Well, I think there's a fundamental difference between what President Obama wants for the country and what Governor Romney wants. The president thinks that you can grow the economy by hiring more government workers. Let's just hire 100,000 new government workers. And that makes no sense to the average citizen who knows that, yeah, we have to have government workers, but someone's got to pay for them. And so Governor Romney understands you got to grow the private sector. It's as simple as that. But their views on how to get the economy going are, diametrically opposed.
Yeah, and I guess in some ways, and we don't really need to go into this in full detail, but in some ways, ultimately, if Mitt Romney does get elected, there's going to be a lot to hammer out in terms of how you're actually going to be changing the tax code and making sure we don't fall into the trap of picking winners and losers even as Republicans.
Yeah, but the overall sort of message that is different, and that's really what I think is very distinct, is that if you raise taxes, you put more money into the government sector, which is the inefficient sector, that hurts the economy. If you leave more money in Missouri or leave more money in Kentucky, that's good for the economy, but that means lower taxes. So it really is we're completely opposite. The Democrats think raising taxes is a good idea. We think leaving more money in Missouri is a good idea. And there's historical evidence for this. When you look at the Great Depression, for 5 or 6 years in a row, they raised taxes. And the president back then, FDR, kept saying, we have to get the rich people. They're not paying their fair share. And he didn't stop until he got the top rate up to 80%. But the economy got worse and worse, and millions of more people became unemployed. So we know historically raising taxes is a bad idea. But we just have to see if the folks in the election will understand that.
Yeah, Senator Paul, you're probably a little bit like me, and from the economic end, is that we'd always want more, but let's get Mitt Romney elected, and then we'll work on repealing the 16th Amendment down the line.
Well, I tell people that the beginning of the battle is getting Republicans elected, but then we also have to make sure that Republicans do a good job, because already there's discussion in Washington, when we take over, we have to pass any budget no matter how bad. And I tell them, look, I'm not voting for a Republican budget that doesn't balance. So, at least within a finite time. And our balanced budget amendment says 5 years. And I think that's a reasonable time to do it. But if you tell me it's going to be 30 years, but, hey, it's a Republican budget, you have to vote for it, they're not going to get my vote for that either.
Yeah, and that's going to be important, and that's why, again, it's really important that we have conservatives in the majority in the U.S. Senate. So that's going to be really important. I know you're going to be in town down the line here to talk about Ed Martin, because these local races are important, and certainly Ed, as a person who is, as we get more into this concept of upholding states' rights, the Attorney General's office is going to be at the forefront of that.
Absolutely. The Attorney General, Ken Cuccinelli over in Virginia, was instrumental in bringing one of the first, if not the first, lawsuit against Obamacare. So attorney generals who believe in states' rights, who believe that we should try to rein in an overzealous federal government getting involved in states' affairs is very, very important. I think Ed Martin will be that kind of attorney general.
Yeah, and I guess in these cases, you whether it be with Obamacare or what have you, I mean, if we do want a focus, and Republicans do want to focus on maintaining the rights and going back to what ultimately our founding fathers designed for this country, those fights are going to be taking place quite often. So.
Well, they do, and I have one sheriff in my state, up in the northern part of the state, who I love going to see, because he says, you know what, when the feds come into my county, they don't come in without a proper warrant, and they need a proper warrant from a local judge. And he understands the law. That's the way it always was. The federal government can cooperate with us, but they should do it in a legal fashion, not in a way where they come and usurp local law officials.
All right. Well, Senator Paul, again, thank you for your dedication to the cause, and thank you for making sure that you keep other Republicans honest. And so we're believers, man, and thank you very much for coming down to St. Louis on behalf of Ed Martin, and we'll see you when you get here. And meanwhile, Godspeed and good luck.
Thank you.
All right. That's Senator Rand Paul, paul.senate.gov. He had to kind of get on the road there, but he's a good guy. And again, I like the fact that he's saying very, very publicly that he's not going to vote for any old Republican budget. I mean, we need more guys like that, more conservatives like that, who ultimately see. That's the thing where a lot of people complain about parts of Mitt Romney's plan. And I do too. I mean, I think somehow I'm confused about what loopholes they want to close and what deductions they want to get rid of, and that I'm concerned about that. But I don't think it's a weakness, and clearly neither does Senator Paul, to advocate on behalf of a Republican who once we get in, we can actually try to shape that person through a more conservative lens. You have no chance at all of influencing Barack Obama, none whatsoever. And you have no chance at all of influencing Democratic senators and Democratic members of the House. You do with some of them, you do. But the only way to actually convince them is to make them afraid for their futures. And I'm talking about as their future livelihoods. Because I'll tell you one thing, nothing sparks movement from a politician more than self-preservation. And these guys want to stay in office. And that's why, ultimately, if Republicans win the presidency and even actually dominate the Senate and the House, then what we're going to do is we're going to scare the hell out of other Democrats, Senate and House, into doing the right thing, because they know what's coming is another election cycle. They're going to be gone. So it's really very important.